Lina woke up in a quiet hospital room. She was small and weak, lying under the stiff white sheets with a drip connected to her arm. The room smelled clean, but there was also a strange sweet smell, like old medicine. The light above flickered, making shadows dance on the walls. Outside her window, it was silent except for the soft beeping of the hospital machine. The nurses were always around, wearing light blue uniforms and white masks on their faces. They moved quietly, like they were floating. Lina's favorite was Nurse Evelyn. She was tall and had long black hair in a neat bun. Her eyes looked tired but kind, and her smile made Lina feel safe. Nurse Evelyn had been taking care of Lina since she arrived at the hospital, though Lina barely remembered the accident that brought her there. But something strange was happening in the hospital, and it all started with the nurse Merrow. Nurse Merrow was different from the others. She liked to stay in the shadows watching Lina. Her skin was pale, almost see-through, and her eyes were big and red, always moving around. Her lips were dry and cracked, and her fingers were long and bony with the broken yellow nails. When she walked, she moved in a weird jerky way, like her body didn't fit together right. The first time Lina saw Nurse Merrow, she was standing outside her room one night. The other nurses had just left, and Lina was almost asleep. Suddenly, Lina woke up feeling cold, and she could see her breath in the air. In the doorway, half hidden in the dark, stood Nurse Merrow. Her head was tilted to the side, staring at Lina with the wide, creepy eyes. She didn't say anything, just smiled in a way that gave Lina chills. Lina pressed the button to call for help, hoping Nurse Evelyn would come, but it was Nurse Merrow who walked in. She moved closer to Lina's bed, her fingers twitching, Lina's heart pounding, and she pulled her blanket up her to chin, hoping the nurse would leave, but Nurse Merrow leaned in close and whispered, "You don't belong here." The next few days felt blurry. The other nurses came and went, but Nurse Evelyn wasn't around. When Lina asked about her, the nurses said she was working on another floor. Meanwhile, Nurse Merrow kept visiting, always late at night, whispering the same strange words, "You don't belong here." At night, the hospital felt different. The hallway seemed longer, and the lights flickered on and off. Sometimes Lina heard screams from other rooms, but when she asked the nurses, they said there were no other patients on her floor. One night, Lina woke up to a sharp pain in her arm. She looked down and saw Nurse Merrow standing by her bed, holding a rusty knife. Blood dripped from the blade, and Lina realized with the horror that it was her own blood. Nurse Merrow's eyes were wild, and her smile showed broken, bloody teeth. "You don't belong here," she hissed again, her voice scratchy. "I'm going to send you where you belong." Lina screamed and struggled to get free, but she was stuck. The room felt colder, and the walls seemed to be closing in as Nurse Merrow came closer, raising the knife. Suddenly, the door flew open and Nurse Evelyn rushed in. Her eyes, usually kind, were now full of anger as she grabbed Nurse Merrow's wrist. They fought, with Nurse Merrow screeching and twitching. But Nurse Evelyn was stronger, and she pushed Nurse Merrow against the wall. Nurse Merrow's body twisted in strange ways, and with one last breath, she faded into the shadows. Lina, shaking and scared, looked at Nurse Evelyn, who had tears in her eyes. "I am sorry," Evelyn whispered. "I should have been here sooner. You were never safe." "Who was she?" Lina asked, her voice trembling. "She was never really a nurse," Evelyn said softly. "She was something the hospital couldn't let go of. But you are safe now." Even though Nurse Evelyn said Lina was safe, as the door creaked open again and the lights flickered, Lina wasn't so sure.